Hello again. We are back into the second file for the midterm review, and I just want to do a quick review on error handling. So in the previous chapter on this, we went on over two different ways you could error handle. One is using a defensive coding style, and one is using exception handling. So we have this really simple code, and I just want to do a quick example to remind you how to do some error handling. Because on the midterm coding problem, you can expect there to be a case where you need to handle some errors. To save time on you writing the midterm, I won't make you handle every possible error, but I will be very specific on a specific part of your code that needs to have error handling. So you should just know how to do it. You can do it in either style as long as it works. That's totally fine. So let's see. It says, given the code below, make it so it will continually ask for a new input until a valid one is given. Do not use try except. Okay, so here we want to use defensive coding style, which usually means we're using some kind of if statements in there. So we have this dictionary, and we want to enter a name to see their age. So what we could say is, hey, actually let me run the code so you can see it working. If I enter a name that exists, like Bobby, I see their age, so I see 16. But if I run this, and I say something that isn't in the dictionary, like Jacob, I get an error here, right? Because I'm saying, hey, you get a key error because Jacob is not a valid key for this example dictionary. Okay, so what we could do is, oopsie, let me restart those terminals. We could say, hey, we want to defend this code from not working. We want to check whether the name input that we get is actually in our example dictionary. And if it is, then we can print it out. And so I could run this now, and our code still works if we have something like Jimmy, that's in there, so it gives us the age. Also, if we give something that doesn't work, like Jacob again, our code doesn't crash, we're just skipping the line of code that would cause it to crash, essentially. So what we can do instead is print out, let's just say, that isn't a valid name, try again. Okay, and now if we were to run it, we do an invalid name, we get a message for it, and this is asking us to continually ask for a new input until a valid one is given, okay? So you could just do this in a while loop, and you could come up with a condition, but I'm just going to do a quick and easy with something this short. I'm just going to say while true, maybe I give a comment on ask continually until a valid name is given, okay? And let's say if the name is in there, it's going to print out the age associated with it, and it's going to break, which will end our loop, okay? Otherwise, it's going to come into here and say that's not a valid name. We can try again. So let's see. If we run this, enter a name to see their age. Let's try Jacob. That isn't in there. So our name input was not an example dictionary, so we went to the else code. It says that isn't a valid name. Try again. It printed it out. Then we jumped back up to our loop, which is just as well true. So it's going to run forever until it finds a break. We're going to ask for another name. Okay. Let's say Alice, that's not in there, but let's try doing one that is in there, Hannah. Okay, so it's going to come into here. It's going to print out the age associated with it, and we can break out of there. So we get a break. You could do this a few other ways. You could also have done example dictionary.get and see if you actually did get something valid, right? That's another way you could have done it, but using if with an in, that works just fine too. The point is you're using if statements, you're not using any try except. So that's an example of defensive error handling. Let's do one with exception handling using try and except. So we have the same exact code as before, but what we're going to do here is we're going to do a try followed by an except. And we can just leave it like this, especially for now. This is going to handle any possible exception that could go wrong in this code. If that occurs, it'll jump down here, and we can just say the same thing. Print that isn't a valid name, try again. Okay? So this way, if we run our code, we do something that isn't there, that works just fine. To review why this is happening, let's actually see what's going on here, right? So if we do Jacob, this would normally give us a key error, but since it's wrapped in a try block, when we're about to run into the exception here, we jump to the except block, and this will catch any exception because we didn't specify a specific type of error. And then it will print out this line of code there, okay? If you want to, you could also put a key error because I know that's what type of error this would cause, right? So that would still work. Say Jacob. Okay, that was a key error because Jacob is an invalid key to this dictionary. So that would work too. Just make sure if you are going to put a exception type here, that you put the correct one. Because if I did something like a value error here, watch what happens. Let's say Jacob. It knows there's an exception, so it is going to jump down here, except it knows that this isn't a value error. So the exception wasn't caught. It's saying exception has occurred, key error, right? So I need to make sure that the actual exception type matches, or I can just put accept exception to catch every type of exception. It doesn't matter what kind. Now this would work. See, that worked just fine. That isn't a valid name. Or if I want to catch every single time, I can also just be lazy and keep it like this. That also works. So that works just fine. The only thing left to do then is just do a loop just like we did before. So let's put this all inside of there. If it works, we're going to break. And we can step through this one last time. Let's enter an incorrect one. Jacob again. We're going to try and print this out. But since this is going to cause an exception, it's going to directly jump to the except block. Okay, so it's going to skip the break. So we're going to jump there. It's going to print out our message for us. We are stuck inside of this loop until we get a proper name in there. So let's say Hannah. And then we print out Hannah's age, and then we break, and we finish our code. Okay. So we have two ways of writing this code. It does the exact same thing. If on the exam I tell you to handle a specific error, I don't care how you do it. All I care is that you find some way that works. So you can use either way of doing it, and hopefully that gives you a good, quick, simple overview of how those work.